Jokic, no slouch out there in Portland, holding his weight too. But yeah, the Joker, one of the top-tier players around the league. Speaking of which, LeBron James still sitting out, and his team struggling against his former team, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Jordan Clarkson.
Clarkson said, I know these rims. I started out on these rims, Chris.
15-point Cavs lead. Lonzo Ball nailing the outside shot, cutting that deficit down. And Kyle Kuzma, he's a guy that can score in different situations.
Oh!
That's a Diesel Dunks nominee.
Yes,
for
I like
sure.
It. Attack the rim.
If someone would have gotten in there, they would have been on a post.
Yes, they would have been a Kuz post.
How about Colin Sexton? Part of a 10-0 Cleveland run, the young Bull gives the Cavs an 8-point lead. It's a 10-point lead now. Woo! Nice moves, come up short.
Well, Tristan Thompson had to clean things up a little bit. And Brandon Ingram, are you kidding me, young fella?
Gets Tristan Thompson right back. Then Kuzma, in the fourth quarter.
Attack.
He took over. 18 points in the fourth quarter for Kuzma, 29 in the game. Dellavedova to Tristan Thompson. We've seen that before.
Yes, we have.
Alec Burks getting some clutch buckets.
Yes, you got to hustle.
Cleveland.
You love the hustle. It's the hustle you're talking about, Chris. Look at that hustle. Stay with it.
The stick-to-itiveness.
Yes.
Then Colin Sexton.
Sexton. Oh, I see the shake and bake. Give it to him.
17 points, but we asked the question, can you get me a bucket?
Yes.
Answer is yes there.
Yes, she did.
So Cleveland gets the win 101-95, snapping a 12-game losing streak.
Lakers with some key free throws missed. They had opportunities, and a lot of them in the fourth quarter. They just couldn't get to the line and make free throws.
Certainly, when you lose a 6-point game and you consider it that you missed 9 free throws in the fourth quarter, that's something that can come back. And throw line there in the fourth quarter, and they fall to 3-7 without LeBron James. But this team that they just lost to, the Cleveland Cavaliers, were riding a 12-game losing streak and were just 3-18 on the road this season. We spoke about this being a must-win for the Lakers coming into this one. Has to be a disappointment for them.
Having LeBron James on your team must give you a false sense of security and a false sense of who you really are, because without LeBron, 3-7 now, without LeBron, they play against a Cavalier team who had lost 12 straight games, and they don't start playing until the last 3 minutes of the game, when all of a sudden they looked up and realized, you know what, we're going to lose this game. It's going to be awfully embarrassing. And they had their opportunities at the foul line in the fourth quarter. They just couldn't make free throws.
Chris, you have to be a little nervous, and Coach, you know this, with Utah knocking on your back door. You see Sacramento's playing better basketball. They're starting to believe in themselves as a young team. So you're saying to yourself, as a Laker fan, how can we hold down the fort till LeBron gets back? And these are one of those games, Coach, you know that you should win. You have to win so you can believe in that goodwill that you're building up. Because when LeBron comes back, LeBron, to your point, Coach, he's only thinking one thing. Let's rev up and fight for a good playoff spot. Well, right now, they're holding on to that 8th spot. Well, before he got hurt, they was at the 4th spot.
You know what happened? He probably got hurt at one of the worst times that it could happen for them, because they had just built up some momentum. They were about 7 games over the 500 mark. They were in 4th place in the Western Conference. So everything was going the right way. They were believing and trusting and listening to what LeBron had to say. He was playing well, even though Rondo went out with the injury. They were in great shape going into the mid-season point, and then LeBron gets hurt, and here they are in this tailspin.
So that's why when you said earlier in the beginning of the show, Ingram, is it Ball? Who is it? Who is that next guy that you can say, this guy, we can ride this hot hand,
18 points
or
in the
we
fourth
can
quarter,
ride
Kyle
his
Kuzma
style of play?
looked
In
like
the
that
pregame
guy.
show, Kyle Kuzma had the 42 points the other night, and now he's kind of dipped off a little bit. To Coach's point, that's what lets fans know why certain guys we call great, and certain guys he's working to be great, because you have to do it every night.
Yes, certainly an interesting situation to see what happened with the Lakers. And again, Kyle Kuzma was the one that really stood out in the fourth quarter with those 18 points and finished with a game-high 29. And those were some clutch baskets from him.
There were 2 players on the Lakers that I thought showed emotion, showed that they cared, and were upset the way they were playing. And one was Hart and the other was Kuzma, to me. Watching the Lakers walk into their huddles, in timeouts. It was almost like they were bored being there. Or like, do I really have to do this? How much time before it's over? Instead of seeing the kind of fire you want to see from a young group of players. I mean, what are you, tired at 21 years old or 20 years old? Come on.
That's what you left school early for.
So that's the final game of the night. We're going to take you around the NBA's. Game time rolls on. LA and Cleveland will play tonight at 9:30. Let's welcome in Lakers play-by-play man John Ireland. LeBron has been sidelined since Christmas. Lakers sliding in the Western Conference standings, just 3-6 since he went out. Are the Lakers entering desperation mode and needing LeBron back on the court?
Well, probably. I mean, anytime you don't have LeBron, you're at a severe disadvantage. He's, arguably the best player in the world. It's weird, though, because they'll play great, like they looked really good Monday in Dallas, and then they looked awful Friday in Utah. So they can win without him. You mentioned they're 3-6. Some of those wins have been pretty impressive. And tonight they should win because they're playing Cleveland, who's on a long losing streak, only has 8 wins this year, but they lost to the Knicks last week. So, it's kind of like we play to whatever the level of the competition is, and hopefully they can find a way to win tonight. And then Chicago comes in here Tuesday. So they've got a couple of winnable games, but until they get LeBron back, and the earliest they would get him back, guys, is Thursday, every game is a coin flip. We just don't know which team's going to show up.
Yeah, you mentioned that inconsistency because we see Brandon Ingram look spectacular one night, and then we see Kyle Kuzma with 41 points in 3 quarters another night, and Lonzo Ball looked like, okay, he's figuring it out, and then not so much. They're very inconsistent. How bad is it with those 3 guys in the sense of their inconsistency?
Well, I think one thing that leads to that, and one thing LeBron doesn't get enough credit for, is that when LeBron's on your team, he always takes up the other team's best defender. So, for example, we lost a game to Oklahoma City last week in which, had LeBron been playing, Paul George would have been guarding him. Instead, that freed up Paul George, who's a great defender, to guard Ingram. And then all of a sudden the questions people are asking are the one you just asked. Why is Ingram not the way he was 2 nights before that when he was dominating? Well, now the other team's best defender goes to either Ingram or Kuzma, whoever the hot player is. And in the case of Lonzo, you asked about Lonzo, he plays fast, and so he's going to have a lot of turnovers, but he's just a typical young player. I think young players make a lot of mistakes. People forget he should be a junior at UCLA, and instead he's here. And so when Luka Doncic plays the way he does, and he's 18 years old, people look at Lonzo and say, well, Lonzo's 21. Why isn't he playing like Luka? Well, the truth is he's just young. All 3 of those guys, actually, Ingram, Kuzma, and Lonzo, are all under the age of 23. So we've got a really young group when LeBron's not here.
Well, Luke Walton is on the record as questioning both Lonzo and Ingram's passion and fire. Since he did that, have you seen progress with those 2 guys in that regard? Forget the numbers, just in their attitude as the way they're approaching the game.
He did that on the last road trip. We had a back-to-back. We played in Minnesota, and those 2 guys looked awful. And then the next night we played in Dallas on the second night of a back-to-back, and those are the 2 guys that carried us to a victory. So the speech worked in the short term. The question is, can those guys keep it up long term? You would think, guys, this is a game tonight where those 2 should be able to have a really big impact. Cleveland is really struggling. There isn't an elite defender on the Cavs roster. As a matter of fact, Larry Nance, who had been playing really well for them, is not going to play. He's got an MCL injury, so they've got injury issues of their own. I would think we'll get a better answer to your question at the end of tonight, but I would think this is a chance for those guys to go back to how they looked Monday night in Dallas when Ingram had a season-high 29 and Lonzo had 21 and controlled the game from the point. But your question is legit. They have been inconsistent. One night they look great. The next night, and you can throw Kuzma in that bunch too. The night after Kuzma scored 41 points in 3 quarters, the next game in Utah he started 0 for 10. So the inconsistency is kind of a theme that runs through our whole team.
Well, more on a positive note, last night several Lakers were seen with LeBron at the Rams playoff game. I mean, how important is it for those guys not to just mesh on the court, but to have nights like the ones that they had last night?
Well, one thing that probably doesn't get enough attention is the 2 best leaders on our team are LeBron and Rajon Rondo. They're the most vocal. They're the guys who speak up the most. And not only has LeBron been out, but Rondo's been out. As a matter of fact, we expect to get LeBron back before we get Rondo back. He broke a bone in his right hand, and they operated on it, and he's probably another couple of weeks away. But they're the most vocal guys. So to get LeBron and Rondo around our team in any capacity is good. They'll be here tonight at the home game, and they'll decide on Wednesday if they're going to go on the next road trip. And by the way, our schedule gets much tougher after the two games I mentioned. We play Cleveland tonight, and then we have the Bulls here on Tuesday night, and then we go at Oklahoma City, at Houston, Golden State here. So in order, we get the Thunder, the Rockets, and the Warriors right after this two-game stretch. So those guys can't come back soon enough.
Certainly seems like it's a tough road ahead for the Lakers. John Ireland, play-by-play voice for Los Angeles. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Anytime, guys. Have a good show.